The prayers of the people called to the light of God, which came in and created a miracle inside of her and healed her. Okay. The more you travel the path, this will happen through you. When you reach the barzakh, the karmat begin to appear, the miracles actually start to happen, because God says, you have become my slave. You truly have given up your will to be close to me. And because of that, when you ask me, it's me really asking myself. God begins to give God's light through your hand. The miracles start to appear. Not always, sometimes. Allah knows, it's up to Allah. But this begins to happen. So at the time of the walking, as you reach this barzakh, all sorts of experiences of transcendental relationship to creation begin to appear, because you are beginning to operate not from the world of your humanity, but you're beginning to operate in harmony with the world of divinity. And we call this sainthood. Sainthood is that state. The station of sainthood begins at the station of barzakh. Okay, so in Sufism, we're not just, we want you to follow divine law, we want you to reach to heaven, to Jannah, to paradise, of course, absolutely, that's your afterlife. But after you begin to learn to follow that, we also want you to clean your heart, because if you're full of anger and hatred and judgment, all those things in your heart, then you have a lot of work to do. Allah says, I look to your heart. He looks inside of our heart to see who we really are. Are we really good people? Are we just doing actions, but in our heart we're actually bad? Or is in our heart are we doing actions because our intentions are truly good? Allah looks to see what's true. Allah doesn't look at your actions so much. Allah looks at the intention behind your actions, behind what you do. Allah looks to your heart. But to reach the barzakh, Allah looks to your soul. Allah looks to your soul, and Allah says, do you carry my mateen, or do you carry your mateen? My mateen means that no matter what, you're going to keep going. Your mateen means I go on Sundays for an hour and I forget the next day. You see the difference? What's your mateen? You have to really find that out inside yourself. Mateen on the outer, you might get your PhD, but mateen on the inner, are you strong enough to walk through your pain? So can you face what's inside of your heart? Most people can't, honestly. Most people don't. They have not faced what's inside of them because it's too painful. Your father left you, your mother left you, your parents were alcoholics, your dad cheated on your mom cheated on your dad. Your brother came and you were the second, your sister came and you were the third. You know, these things create so much pain inside of people as children, and they stuff it inside, they never deal with it, it destroys them. And then 50 years later, they end up with heart disease. Why? Because they never felt loved. The number one killer in the United States, heart disease. Why? Because people don't feel loved. But do you know that if you don't feel loved, it's really, yes, the truth is you might not have been loved. That's true, but did you know that Allah loves you? God is there every moment to love you. If you're not feeling loved, it's only because you've closed yourself to the flow of love from God itself. So yes, your parents messed up, true. But no, did you clear your heart so that you could receive the flow of love from God all the time? Or are you still blaming your parents for what they did? The fact that 50% of the deaths in the United States are from heart disease tells us that we are in a great deal of blame. Okay. Did you know that there's research on this, that almost in every case, cancer appears shortly after a major trauma to the emotional body? In other words, people get cancer after they lose a job, after they have a divorce, you know, after something happens that essentially bottoms out their emotional body. They can't recover. They lose their wife cheats on them, they lose their husband cheats on them. Something. They lose their money, they have to do a bankruptcy. Something reacts inside of them they can't recover emotionally. This is researched. We know that. So again, if we know that most people are dying because they don't recover from the loss of love or the loss of a husband or the wife or whatever, the question is really inside yourself, what are you doing about it? Are you taking care of yourself, or are you going to sleep, forgetting about it, or worse, are you blaming others for your problems and avoiding yourself? What are you doing about it? And in Sufism, what we want you to do about it is we want you to have the courage to look inside of yourself and to make the change. We want you to have the courage to look inside yourself and make the change. Don't blame others. It's a waste of time. You can blame them all you want. My mom did this and my mom did that. I'm now 62 years old. And my mom's gone for 40 years, but I'm still mad at her. Well, that's great. I appreciate that, but it isn't going to help you. And it's not going to help her either. She's going to be on the other side going, oh my God, the kid's still mad at me. Please get over it already. She wants to go on herself. She's had enough. So, what are you doing with it yourself? Are you taking the time to heal it? Okay, now, in the heart, most of these issues show up as images, meaning that the memories, and usually there's one. At one time that you went to your dad with these big open arms and you threw your arms around your dad, I love you, Daddy, and your daddy pushed you away and he didn't give you the love. That broke your heart. Now, you don't think that's a big deal, but I'm telling you, having been a healer now for many years, that moment of time crystallizes inside of your descending left ventricular artery, and sooner or later, when you're 50 years old and you go to your husband and you throw your arms around him, husband, Daddy, I love you, and he pushes you away, guess what happens? The same thing that happened when you were a child, and that heart contracts, and all of a sudden, shortly after that, maybe you have a heart attack. Okay? So, again, these images are there. But in the world of the soul, the images also exist, but they're different. They're deeper, they're more, let's say, global, or even beyond the earth itself, because the soul is beyond the earth itself, and they're more subtle. So the images of the Jabarut are subtler, and they stem from an earlier time. So the second step of healing the veils is first being aware of the reality, and second being aware of the subtleness of the Jabarut images, which were established much earlier, usually before 3 years old. Okay, so you have to be able to access, very early times in yourself. And the third step, and this is the master step, is when you reach the soul reality of the Barzakh, which is the third station in our system, the third station. Let's say that you're working with Matin. Here's the quality of Matin. So you were trying to be strong when you were 2 years old, and you came up to your mom, and your mom pushed you away and told you she wasn't going to give you the love because you didn't do what she wanted. She broke your Matin. Your mom did something, your Matin, your resolution fell down, you started feeling bad about yourself, you weren't able to hold up to your mom, that place of Matin got damaged inside of you, then you began not to be so resolute. And that place, now I can never please my mom, she's never going to be happy, became, now I can never please my kindergarten teacher, my first grade teacher, my sixth grade teacher, my 12th grade teacher, my college teacher, and ends up, rather than you realizing the possibility to, really succeed in life, you end up believing you can't, and you end up basically sabotaging yourself, and you never go forward in life. You don't go to school because you don't think you're ever going to do it. You don't get your degree. You know, you fell in love with some man, perhaps, or woman, but you're afraid to meet them because you don't feel good enough about yourself, so you never go after the one that you know in your heart is the one you want to be with. Instead, you choose somebody that you don't want to be with because you feel bad about yourself. You constantly sabotage yourself. Okay? These deeper issues and images at these levels hook into these qualities and essentially limit the flow. So rather than having Allah's mateen, which like a prophet, I can do anything and I will not stop, you hit something else, which is I don't really believe in myself. And the first time I hit something that really shakes me, I run away. And so rather than realizing what's possible, you don't realize it because you have sacrificed your own quality because of these subtle images, and you don't have the arrival into the divine quality itself. Okay, so the walking of the barzakh is to know which qualities Allah is awakening in you, let's say in this case mateen, resoluteness, understanding the subtle images that have limited it, and purifying those images so that you can have true mateen. That's what the walking of the barzakh is. But there's one last piece, which is, what if you find out that you like not being resolute? Right? What if it's easier? Well, wow, I don't have to really try. You know, life is really good because someone's going to take care of me. You know, they're going to take care of me. I don't have to try. Life is good. Boy, it feels so good. I don't have to do anything. Why should I try? Because I feel good with what I have. That sense of, I like not being resolute because then I don't have to fail. That is the veil of light. That is what a veil of light is. It is not an unacceptable thing by Allah. I mean, there's no sin in not trying. It's not wrong. You haven't done anything bad to anybody. If anything, you've done something bad to yourself. But you haven't hurt anybody. You haven't done a sin in the sense of you've gone against divine law. But by the same token, you have not also embellished divinity, and you have not realized your potential. Okay. So in our teaching, the walking of the veils of light is your ability to have the courage to see the most subtle aspects of your inner reality, to understand where you have become complacent and liking something less than what Allah wants from you, and you have chosen that as your existence rather than having the courage to break through it to the truth, which means it's going to make you uncomfortable. Okay, let me say it one more time. The walking of the veils of light is your ability to get into your soul, to understand that what is moving inside of you at this deepest level of your being, I need to be resolute, I need to be strong, because Allah is asking me to do something with my life, and I'm afraid. And not only am I afraid, but I'm happy being afraid. Astaghfirullah. I'm happy to be afraid because what that means is that it's easier for me to choose something of illusion than to choose what would break the illusion and be uncomfortable. So to be resolute means I might have to risk everything. To be non-resolute means I can continue with my life in the complacent way I'm living with it and not have to go forward. And I'm happy. I'm not unhappy. I like my life. I'm not unhappy with it. It's not what I really want, but it's pretty darn good. So I'll stay with pretty darn good because it's better than taking the chance of blowing it. That's the veils of life. It's complacency with the human qualities rather than accepting the nature of divinity itself. That's the first level of the veils of light. Okay, now there's a second level, and this one's harder than the other one. Okay, the second level is, what if you reach the true rahmah, for example, you have real compassion, but you stop with that compassion. You say, I love compassion. My compassion is so amazing. Allah's rahmah and compassion and the experience of compassion is so amazing that when I experience compassion, it is everything in the world. Why would you go beyond compassion? There is a state beyond compassion, which is Allah's reality. Why would you go beyond Allah's rahmah to reach Allah itself? What would drive you to do that when you love compassion? If you stop with Allah's rahmah as compassion, and you don't go beyond it into the state of pure unity with God's reality itself, you have stopped with the veil of light. So the first veil of light is the false veil of your own complacency. The second veil of light is the veil of actually having the divine quality and stopping with it and becoming enamored with it and not wanting to go further. Those are the two veils of light that have to be crossed if people wish to reach into the world of unity. Okay? The majority of people stop with the veils of light. Many systems, for example, Buddhism, for example, is one, is very much caught in the veils of light. It loves a certain level of compassion, a certain level of consciousness, but it stops. Now, not all Buddhist paths do that, but some do. Okay, and so the point is, it's not that you're wrong for this, there's no wrongness. But if you don't cross through the compassion into the reality of God and recognize that God exists, you will stop with compassion and you will not enter into God's reality. You stop with the veil of light and you don't cross it into the reality of God itself. And therefore you limit your experience. And people will tell you, I have experienced the enlightenment of Rahmah. I have experienced enlightenment of compassion. That enlightenment is true from the point of view of Rahmah. It is not true from the point of view of God's reality. You're stopping with the third station, which is pseudo-enlightenment, and you have not reached the fourth station, which is true enlightenment. You're stopping with a pseudo-environment.